Hey, what is going on, everyone? Happy Friday. Hope everyone is having a great end of the week. Welcome back to another edition of Titan Talk. I'm Isiah, Kilgoon with us, and we talked about it on our Wednesday show, but we've got Max, aka Innocent Rabbit, here joining us, and we're going to be talking about some matchmaking and ranked. I know, which way do I point? This way. Max is here. What's going on, Max?
This guy. Hey guys, how's it going? It's good to be here. Friend of the show, I think.
Yeah,
Like coming on and chatting. So yeah, looking forward to it.
absolutely. Well, we were just talking about it kind of on the wait screen, but I feel like a trend of the show has been Max has been cooking in the background, right? And we wanted to make sure we saved a lot of time for questions because we know matchmaking and ranked has been a hot topic in the community over the past couple weeks. So definitely wanted to save a big portion of the show for questions, but we did prep just kind of a single slide to talk about some of the stuff we've been working on in the background.
Do we want to talk about other stuff before we get into
Yeah,
that?
let's get into it first.
Okay,
Yeah.
real quick, other stuff. Just a reminder, update still on track to go live on Monday. On Monday, we'll probably go through the full patch notes. We're getting them staged right now. So they'll probably go live before then if you want to read them yourselves, but we'll talk through it on Monday and talk through some of the logic behind everything. I also just wanted to very quickly hit on some esports stuff.
Yeah, let's do it.
If you haven't followed the Smite 2 Esports Twitter, there's been a lot of kind of things that we've announced recently. So tomorrow, this whole weekend, actually, I believe, is going to be Inbound's tournament here in the U.S.
The Bobby tournament.
The Bobby tourney with that Hi-Rez helped sponsor the prize pool for. So if you want to watch some of the really great kind of pro players competing for cash prizing, that's this weekend.
Yeah.
And then also we announced there's going to be a Smite 2 Euros tournament that Nika and Hazer are running that starts March 15th. And I think they are taking signups for that. You have to be kind of like a high-level ranked player to play in that one. And then just 30 minutes ago, Chris T. Dixon announced that he's running some Joust Cash Cups.
Yeah.
So if you are a jouster and you want to play in some Cash Cups, check Chris T. Dixon's Twitter.
Yeah,
and then there was
your 3v3 up. And yeah, Little Birdie told me there might be another esports announcement happening a little bit later on this afternoon.
Yeah, there is some more. And then also I saw Happen tweet this. I never know how to actually say his name, but the Smite Lovers United tourney signups are open as well, and they I believe they crowdfunded that with their own money for a little bit of a prize pool. So if you want to play in the Smite Lovers United tourney, you can also check that one. So a lot of competitive outlets right now.
Yeah, for sure.
And sorry, with that little preamble, so I didn't forget, we can talk about matchmaking.
No, you're good. Max, do you have anything you want to do to kick us off, or are you ready to just go to our little slide here?
Yeah, I'll kick us off. I'll say that I think matchmaking ranked always a topic of discussion. There's always stuff to talk about and always stuff to do. And I think today, I just wanted to go over what we've done, some changes, like the order of changes that we've done, some stuff that we got coming up.
Yep.
And then with the knowledge of like what we've changed, what we have going on right now, and what's coming up, start out to questions. I think that it's a lot of the times when I've come on here, we've talked about some charts, we talked about some numbers, and you know how much I love doing that. But I think that people just have like questions, and sometimes I don't know what questions people have. So I think it'd be cool to just open it up, let people ask away, and we can chat about it.
Absolutely. Well, let me bring up the handy dandy laptop, and we can kind of go through the timeline really quick. Max, I will throw it to you. I know you put this together this morning. Just a quick little TLDR, just because you've been cooking, so we just wanted to go through all the changes that have been happening over the past couple months. Yeah,
let's do it. Here's what we have in front of us is a timeline, but right at the top we have two big logos. Okay, Rally Here and Titan Forge, and Rally Here are a big technical partner of ours. We rely on them for a lot of things, and the kind of core infrastructure of our matchmaking system is one of those things. And the truth is that when we were going through closed beta into open beta, not only were we learning what we wanted to do with our matchmaking system, but we were also learning how to work with our partners on how to make that system. Yeah. So I think that we talked about bringing in specific engineers and people to work on matchmaking at some point during a Titan talk. I'd say maybe December, January. Really what that was, just so like we're all on the same page, was bringing in this really great engineer that we're working really closely with in Rally Here on adding these features into that kind of core matchmaking infrastructure. And what we had as like a base kind of level thing that we can work with and go from there was this system that would take effectively groupings of players together, evaluate them, and then choose to make the match or not make the match. And what we've done, since the closed beta, but especially as we moved into open beta, is find different ways to evaluate whether a match should be made or not be made. And so when we got into open beta 1, the kind of core features of how we chose to make a match or not make a match were based on kind of only like these 3 qualities. The first one is match quality, and match quality is it's kind of a value that's generated based on a skill-based metric and also an experience-based metric. It's a very generalized quality kind of number that you can generate. And so right from the start, there were skill-based elements in our matchmaker. That's always been a part of the matchmaker. However, kind of as we've gone through even the open beta, we've found our own personal limitations with that metric, and that's why we made some changes that we made later on. We also had level range or SR range. So when making a ranked match or when making a casual match, we had features to limit the range that was possible in a match. And the way that this works is that when a player hits Q, you see the timer that pops up and it's 0 seconds, then 1 second. And we kind of determine specific range thresholds that we allow based on how long you've been waiting. So when you start your search, maybe the level range that you can look at or the SR range, let's say the SR range, because I think that for ranked it's maybe a bit cleaner.
Yeah.
You can only match into a lobby that has players that are like 500 SR apart. But if you're waiting for 5 minutes, that grows to 1,000 SR apart because you just haven't found players that meet these criteria for you. And this is where the biggest kind of metric in matchmaking comes in, which is just player base. If we had infinite players online, all matches would be made right away because you have the players that you need to play with. So the longer you wait, the wider of a range that you can pull into your match. And that's why sometimes, even if your time was not very long, someone else could be waiting for quite a long time and pull you into a match that has this wider range so that they finally capture players that they can play with. And then finally, we had party composition. So this was just limiting so that a 5-stack, like in Casual Conquest, wouldn't immediately play against a bunch of solo players. We didn't want that to happen. Mm-hmm. So going into Open Beta 2, we added a bunch more features. We kept working with Rally here. We kept looking at things that we needed. And the kind of first big one that was really important was a way to not just look at the range of the match, but the actual team, the differences in like team average. So the team average level on one team versus the team average level on the other team, or the average SR on one team versus the average SR on the other team. Match quality kind of hypothetically does that for you. But we started to notice really quickly that metric, which is an established metric, and I don't want to just, shade an established like statistical method that's been developed for a long time. It wasn't really doing what we needed, as well as we thought it could. So we got this new feature in to look at these team averages. We also expanded kind of how we used backend skill ratings. So we were able to look at not just level and SR, but also these kind of backend, like a lot of people like to use the term hidden MMR for like casual matches and stuff like that. We just expanded our ability to integrate that into these ranges. And then we also made a big change to trio queues.
Yeah.
As a fun side note for trio queues, you know what? Maybe I'll skip past that. But there's a fun little story with trio queues. It's gonna take too long to explain. But there's a fun trio queue story about how when we first made this change, we accidentally were putting like so many players into trio queue matches. It was a disaster, and then we fixed it. It was very funny. Took like 24 hours. It's okay, guys. And then moving into Open Beta 3, this patch, admittedly, there was, like, we can be frank, there was a lot of other stuff going on around this time. And also with that, we were kind of focusing on the new player experience, MPE, and then quality of life stuff. Just like taking a pass on like what should the pause duration be? Are there like certain like cues to like the when you get into a match to help players avoid missing their turn to pick? Fun note. I think the rate of lobby like abandonment from people missing their picks dropped by like 30 or 40%
Wow.
the day that we implemented the sound cues to it's your turn to pick, which I think was really funny. And then so going into Open Beta 4, the most recent released patch, we got back kind of on our matchmaking development grind, and we've put in two new, I think, pretty important features. And I don't want to get too deep into the weeds, but the first one here is final lobby rule adherence. And what was happening prior to us kind of making this change was that the 10 players in a match could actually circumvent the rules that we established for a match if there was like two players who were super big outliers and they've been waiting for 10 minutes. Just the existence of those players waiting would make other lobbies have rules that didn't make sense for those lobbies. And we were getting a lot of reports about these matches that didn't make sense and people weren't waiting that long, and we were like, you're right, you're not waiting that long. And so we did a deep dive into it and we found this, so we made a big change in 4 for that. And then finally, players who were really highly ranked were waiting really long for a match, and then we were having these issues with kind of balance because of that. And so the way that we soft capped players that should play together was also changed. So players who are like 6,000 SR are more likely to be match made with other top end players in a faster time instead of always waiting for like the 15-minute queue to finally let them do that. So there's a few kind of important changes that happened there in Open Beta 4. And then at the bottom here, I have a list of our current priorities and then our future plans. So just to kind of list all of our priorities that we have. First one is kind of a logical team and matchup balance system. A lot of the times when we get people saying, hey Max, what happened with this match? Let's talk about it. A lot of the times what they can often point to is like two players who it feels like they should just be on different teams. Like they should just swap teams. And the reason why that exists as it is that we don't actually do a pass after we've made a match to say this is the best match that we could possibly make with these players. We just say this is a match that meets our rules. There's a lot of reasons why doing that pass is it's been explained to us to be really like computationally heavy. Checking all the combinations and stuff is something that adds a lot of cycles, and these systems have to run so fast for them to be effective. But we're exploring ways to do that. We're exploring ways to make sure that when we make a match, it's, if not like the very best, like very close to the best combination of those players. So that's one thing that we're looking at. Another priority that we're looking at is top like SR and ranked. And one of the, and we can, if people want to ask about it later, one of the things in Smite 1 that with that system was a benefit was that the way it worked is that the top 10 players would often play with each other, or at least like 10 of the top 15 kind of thing. But right now, the very top players don't always get to get a match all together. And while there's a lot of, good reasons why that system has a lot of limitations, it's also just a nice thing for the top players to get to play other top players. Yeah. So we're exploring kind of alternative matchmaking styles. Now they're at a point where we feel like we have a lot of features in. What can we do to just actually break down the styles of matchmaking that are possible, so we can look at kind of new things? We currently use this like count up, expand method. Smite 1 used the count down and then make matches method. We're exploring kind of everything within that range and just having conversations about it. And then we're looking at new player stuff still. That's a really big one for us, the new player kind of matchmaking experience. just a generally massive one. We have people always taking a look at how we can make the new player get into Smite, enjoy it, experience, feel good. And then the last one is new competitive formats. And as I said with priorities, this one's just for fun. Sometimes with matchmaking and ranked stuff, it can feel very, can feel heavy, it can feel serious. And I think that there's a lot of opportunity also to have fun with it and create fun outlets for players. So we have some stuff in the works for that. I'm hopeful that we can talk about it in more detail soon.
Soon, yeah. I want you back on soon to talk about this because it's exciting.
I know, right? We're definitely gonna have to have
Yeah.
Max on because I've gotten the TLDR and it's some exciting stuff for sure.
Yeah, we're in the process of we've chatted with some of our players. We've chatted internally about it a lot, and there's stuff in the works. So thanks for letting me recap everything we've done and kind of get us all on the same footing as to where we're at. And yeah, it was just I thought from here on out we could kind of just chat with people, see what people have to ask.
Exactly. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Max, thanks so much for the quick rundown. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Kilgoon.
No, I was just going to go straight to the things people were asking. I wasn't going to be
Let's get
polite and
into
say
some.
thank you.
Some
So, thank you.
Q&A.
That was nice. So I think like the question that's come up the most while you've been talking, I think is just like, why not just hard cap people to require matches are all within whatever the right number is of each other, and people claiming that they are willing to wait a long time for this to occur.
Yeah. It's in a sense really fair. That you're like, why can't it just be this way? And the truth of it is that a hard cap. Let's say we hard capped it. One that I just looked over at chat and I saw 1,000. Let's say 1,000, right? A match can't go over 1,000 apart. If we were to hard cap 1,000, maybe at peak hours for players who are in the, let's say, standard range of SR, so like at 0 to 4,000 SR, you would eventually find a match. For sure. And you probably wouldn't even have to wait that long. You know, if you're in NA or EU, finding players in that range, yeah, super doable. All of those rules, though, get completely thrown out the window the moment you start talking about low player hours and outlier players. So recently there was a post on Reddit, someone talking about matchmaking. I think I hopped in there and I left a comment about it. And one thing that I didn't want to air out in the post, they were talking about there's these like two players who are about 5,000 and they're playing with players who are like 4,000 and 3,000. I think there's one person in gold. They were wondering how that match happened. The players who were in Deity, who were 5,000, or I guess demigod, 5,000 plus SR, they'd each been waiting for about 14 minutes. Not in a party, just individually. And when you look at during that time that they were waiting, I think the 10th player that had got online, because it was really early morning EU, was like mid 3,000s. So even if we had taken the top 10 players that had queued early morning hours in EU, we wouldn't have had a 1,000 range match for that player. So it's really tough. It's really tough to set these hard limits and not, screw over individuals who play at off-peak hours or play as outliers to skill. The way the current system currently works, I don't even mind being super, super like transparent with it. Right now, we start our search at 600 as a range. And for 3 minutes, it stays at 600. We're hoping to get you a match. 600 is the goal, I'd say. Internally, at least that's where kind of I'm at. 600 represents one rank. Being within one rank would be amazing. And then up until about 8 minutes, I think it expands from 600 to like 1,200 as a range. Maybe it's slightly different now. And then after 8 minutes, it goes up quite fast. It goes up to, I think, 2,400 after 18 minutes or something like that. And the reason for that, as you kind of alluded to, Alex, is that we have found, and we can see, in the data, when people click queue and we can see when they leave queue, the moment that timer hits 10 minutes, ranked, unranked, especially, ranked is the only players that will wait that long at all. The moment that timer hit 10 minutes, the majority of players are turning it off. They're walking away from the game. they're requeuing because they think something's broken.
Yes.
And when you requeue, it really doesn't help your cause. Which is hard to say as well because we have had times where we had bugs where people weren't entering queue properly, and requeuing was the right thing, but that's mostly been handled at this point. But we kind of have to find matches before 10 minutes as a general rule before people start to walk away. We don't always do that. I recently, I was chatting on Twitter, and Benny Q, who's like one of our top rated players, had been getting some matches previously that were like 20 something minute waits, and then more recently like in the teens. And often pro players maybe will wait a little bit longer, but a lot of players aren't willing to wait that long. And if we set these hard limits of like 1,000 SR, players are just going to be waiting that long for the majority of the day. Even like peak hours last maybe like 8 hours, and then so like the other 16, we're looking at people sitting for a very long time. So it's tough. These are the limitations to matchmaking in a like a I don't want to call this like a low player population game, but with everything that gets split up and stuff like that, the ranked queue in Smite isn't a high player population game, and we have to make certain trade-offs, and it's all an ongoing process. So we're learning, we're trying to figure out the best ways to do things, and but that's the main reason why we can't hard cap for sure every game forever.
Yeah, and I think that's that's one of the reasons why the old countdown system, right, was like, at least, you trust that we have made you the best possible match with the people that were in the queue at that point in time. And you know how long you're going to be waiting, which is one of the benefits of the old system. I think, but the new system, just from like the statistics that we've got, usually leads to most people getting better matches in terms of like the way that we rate them, right?
And faster matches.
And faster,
like the truth is, I know that we're talking about these very high wait time matches. I pulled this earlier. I came ready with wait time stats. So we're talking wait times. It's great. The median wait time for ranked right now is 2 minutes. The most average you're going to get is about 2 minutes. I think something like around 50% of matches happen before 2 minutes. 90% of matches happen before 6 minutes in ranked. And in casuals, hold on. You know what? I'm gonna pull up
Let's
my
do it live,
stats.
Max.
I'm doing it live, guys. Where is it now? In ranked, wait times. There we go. Yeah. So in ranked, we have 90% of matches, 92% of matches happening before 6 minutes, and 99.16% of matches happening before 10 minutes right now. In casuals, we have 91% of matches happening before, I guess, 3.5 minutes, and 99% of matches happening 5 minutes. That's casual conquest. And then arena, 97% of matches are popping. 99% of matches are popping before the 4 minute mark. So we have, I think I saw some people in the chat saying, if it hits 5 minutes, hits 6 minutes, we're closing the game. Yeah, we know.
Yeah,
like that's the we
problem,
know,
right?
and it's all the problem, but also super understandable. You want to play the game, which is it's so funny because we make a lot of changes to this. We're constantly patching the game. We're constantly working on matchmaking and testing different little things to see if there's different ways that we can make the game more enjoyable for people.
Yep. And
if we're sitting there and we're like, oh,
to go for it.
All I was gonna say is, if we're sitting there and we go, you know what, the matches have been kind of a little too unbalanced recently. Let's take a second. Let's make them tighter. Make people wait a little while longer. I will immediately start getting DMs on Twitter. I was waiting really long for this match. What's going on? And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that's fair. And then if we do the opposite and we say, oh, people are waiting too long, let's make matches faster, I will immediately start seeing screenshots of people being like, this match sucked, man.
Yeah. It's a
and
tough balancing act for sure.
It's a tough balancing act. It's fine though. Like that's the game that we're playing on the dev side of things. Like, how do we make the right mix of these things for people? And different people have different needs. And that's one of the things that in that slide I was talking about, like alternate matchmaking styles. The vast majority of players are serviced better by our current system. The top 0.1% of players were probably serviced better by our old system. Yeah. What can we do to combine systems or look at different ways to approach things so that we can have our cake and eat it too, and make matches fast and make matches long, you know?
Yeah.
So that's kind of that's the game afoot. And I think we're starting to build out a much longer suite of tools. And the more stuff that we have built out, the more options we have available to us to do new things.
Yeah. There was a question of, why do you allow parties to form with over 2,500 SR difference? Is that...
Great question.
Yeah.
Super good question. There's two answers to this. One is that right now we can't limit it. We don't have the technical ability to stop people from joining a party and joining the queue. We can either say you can't do it at all, or everyone can do it. We don't have the ability to limit it by rank range, I believe. And I don't want to... I'm going to very tentatively, fingers crossed, say
Subject
that
to
this has been
change.
scheduled for not the next patch as in 5, but for 6. We've had this kind of on our calendar for a while. There's a chance it has to get pushed, obviously. But that is something that we should have as a tool available to us soon, right? These are the tools we're building out.
I like this. Oh, sorry, go for it.
No, I was going to say there's a conceptual answer as well, which is that, it's tough to say where that limit should be, right? Like, part of the joy of having a infinitely wide range of ranks is that a player who plays ranked all the time, let's say they're like mid diamond, can take their friend into a game of ranked and play with them. They can take 2 friends because we allow trios. And then we're having potentially this one committed player convert 2 players to competitive Smite players. It's like an awesome thing. Does it maybe ruin some ranked matches? Maybe, which is why we kind of have to have those tools available to us. But I don't think that it's so black and white that we should err towards the most competitively integral design elements, for sure. Like, I'm not going to say that we're not going to like get this feature in and then not limit ranges. But I think there's a lot of considerations we have to make with the ranked queue to be like, how do we grow competitive Smite? How do we make it a mode that people actually want to play and play with their friends? And that kind of, let's harken back to another thing we're working on, alternate competitive formats. Ranked is a high form of competitive Smite, but having that queue exist and then potentially creating higher forms. Right now, obviously we have community tournaments happening, but creating in-game formats that are more serious allows us the design space to take ranked a little bit less serious. Not in a bad way. Like, I love playing ranked. I don't want it to feel that much different. If someone finds my tracker profile, you'll see I play a lot. So I know the grind.
Yep.
But I think that nothing converts players to long-term Smite players better than playing with a group of friends and having a good time, or being competitive Smite players. And having fun with a group of friends in competitive Smite should just be the secret sauce then, right? And so that's why there's a lot of considerations that have to happen there. But we are going to get the technical ability. One of the big ones is like not allowing players over a certain SR to trio queue. That's 100% going to happen. Having like a bunch of 5K rated players trio queuing together is just a disaster. Right now, our matchmaker basically refuses to make matches with them. We've made changes to say, okay, guys, you can't be destroying queues like this.
Yeah.
But having like a hard limit so players know that that's something we're pushing away from is important. So there's certain things happening in that regard.
I'm going to answer a couple questions so you can rest your voice for just a second.
Yeah.
I think there's 2 that I can get to relatively quickly here. One of them is, would you say it's worse to wait 10 minutes and not find a game, or wait 10 minutes and find a game that is wildly unbalanced? At least to me personally, finding a game after a longer queue and it being super unbalanced is way worse than not finding a game at that time. I would say most players are not going to even wait 10 minutes, right? You are in the fraction of a percent that is willing to wait that long for a good game. You can, and I think that this kind of goes back to what Max said, where it's like the higher elo people, the people who are more competitive minded that are willing to wait longer, maybe we need to be treating slightly differently to where, they are finding good matches after waiting. But for the vast majority of players, getting into a match and having that affirmation that like, hey, there are games going, I can get into the game, I can play the game, and maybe it's slightly imbalanced, is more important than waiting longer for a better match, right? And I will say, like, I don't think we are making too many games that are wildly imbalanced, with the potential exception of some things being caused by parties, which Max has hinted at. But other than that, I think that most of the like MMR ranges for matches that we're making are pretty, I would say at most slightly imbalanced, unless you are a top 0.5% player, in which case if you're at 6,000 SR, it's just going to be hard to find people in that exact range. So it's going to be a little bit different. The other one I wanted to answer is somebody had asked a question about and there were kind of two questions around this: doing ranked rewards to incentivize more people to join the system, or making rank the default mode. What we have found is that putting rewards behind ranked, generally speaking, upsets people on both sides of the aisle. It upsets people that don't want to play ranked, that feel like you're forcing them to play ranked to get the reward. And it upsets people who are like, why are there these people who clearly don't want to play ranked in my rank matches? And there are just a lot of people who play Smite that don't want to play ranked. I am one of those people. I have played thousands of hours of Smite, and I have played maybe 100 ranked matches in my career, right? I'm just not that kind of player, right? Like, I like competition, but I don't need the ultra sweat of ranked. And most Smite players are that way. So I think that like trying to force people into this, like, numbies go up, numbies go down, oh no, I lost, my heart's broken, is not going to be a good experience for those players. And I think that if we tried to combine them, we'd probably have to do something like, I don't know if there's any Wild Rift enjoyers in chat, but like that game gives you like, I forget if it's 2 or 3 loss preventions every day where you don't lose your visible like MMR for losing the first 2 or 3 times, which then makes the SR not really be real anymore, and it upsets our competitive people.
Yeah.
So I think that it's like, how do you make something that like casuals are okay with playing, and it's like losing doesn't feel that bad, but the hardcore still feel like, but I'm able to prove my worth. It's very difficult.
I've picked out a few here that I can.
That is a thing, Bobby. That is the way that Wild Rift works. Yes. Sorry. Go for it.
No problem. I saw Bobby's been in the chat, and I generally ignore him, but I'm joking. I love Bobby. Okay. So first one, how does casual matchmaking work? I constantly get new players in my game. Super fair question. It works based on 2 main components: levels and like hidden MMR. And I'd say that given certain kind of design directives, we've kind of gone back and forth between which one's more important. But right now, when you start your search, it's searching for players. Like once you're over level, I think we've set it at 30 right now, you're kind of all in the same level pool. Past that point, we don't really care about levels as much. But for brand new players, I think the starting search is, it starts at like 0 to 10, and then it can go like 5 to 15, and 10 to 20, and so on. And because of the way that levels curve out, generally makes sense. I'd say like that would be ideal to get them in there. The continuation, right, is that this person's constantly getting new players in their game. If you are over level 30 and you're getting new players in the game, given how like the wait times, they're quite low, right? And so you are probably not the one pulling a new player into your game if you're over level 30. So what it means is that either A, a new player who is trying to play the game has been waiting too long and pulled you into their game, or B, someone is in a party with another new player and you've kind of merged into a game like that. And one of the ways that that works is that right now we just average levels out. So if there's a player who's like level 40 playing with a level 1 in a party, now they're level 21 collectively, and they can start to find higher level players quite easily. The other thing that I do want to mention about this though is that I have gotten a lot of people, and I welcome it. People, especially if you're gonna send me a match, I'm just gonna say it live. Just send me the link. If you send me just the screenshot with like just the ratings and like no other information for me to go like look at my little back end numbies, like it's a little harder for me to actually take a look at what's going on. But send me the link to the tracker page, or a screenshot that has like the match ID, and then I'll go check. And those players are like level 30, they're level 40. They're just bad. Like they're just bad, and that's okay. But or they had a really bad game.
Yeah.
Like I think one of the things too that happens is that sometimes there'll be this match that I'm like, on paper, this game should be a banger. And sometimes it's even more common when the match should be a banger. Because teams get so even and they know what they're doing, if one team gets ahead, either via draft or luck or whatever it is, early picks, matches can snowball and feel terrible and be in every matchmaking way possible a perfectly made match. This is not to say like, oh, casual matches, perfect matchmaking. But sometimes it's just really hard to pick out who the truly like new player is and how to handle them. That being said, one of the things that I talked about kind of on our plans is handling these new players, like genuinely new players. If you are over level 30 and you're getting a genuinely level 2 person into your game, played like one casual conquest match, it does mean that they've been waiting a long time and their search radius is widened, and maybe it's an off hour of the day or whatever. We don't want that, and we have plans on how to handle those players and how to give them a better experience. Because admittedly, your experience getting a new player in your game sucks. Their experience getting into your game is so much worse.
Yes.
Like it's so bad. And
there was somebody who was like, "Oh, can I prefer to queue with new players so I can help show them the ropes?" It's like, no, because a lot of people just do that to beat on new people, right? Like it's not a good experience. Sorry, go for it, man.
Yeah, one of the old things that a feature that I think that who knows when we would cycle back around to it, but it was something they were talking about Smite 1 days, was finding ways to like match up veterans with new players in a party. That one is a lot more safe, whereas saying I want to queue into new players is like tough for us to allow. So yeah, that's how casual matchmaking works. It is skill based, it is level based. We're trying to get people into matches at a reasonable pace, and we are trying to separate people out, and it works, right? If I go look at the charts that we generate, and I don't want to just rely on, all the charts say things are pretty decent, but most players who are new play with other new players. It doesn't stop it being very obvious when things fall through the cracks, right?
And
we're trying to
that new player. Sorry, I was just saying maybe that new player like was on like a win streak and they were doing really well against new players, and then they got thrown into the adult pool and they were like, "Oh God, I'm out of my depth." Right? It happens a lot.
Yeah. There's someone who was talking about this idea of like win streaks, and then we try to get you into a match to lose. There's all these let's call it theories about like engagement matchmaking, and I don't know what other studios are doing.
Some games do that, right? Like I know for a fact that certain other games, which I will remain nameless, matchmake around you as a player having a 50% win rate, not the match being 50% win rate. So basically, like if you are winning more, they will put you into matches that they think you're going to lose. If you're losing, they'll put you into matches they think you're going to win, whether that's using bot games or whether that's just stacking the teams in a way that you are not going to win this one. And we do not do that. We balance our games. We try to make each individual game a 50% chance of winning, right?
For each team.
Each team. Yes.
Yeah, completely. That's our only focus. Just wanted to say that. There was a question asked a few times, which was, would you say it's worse to wait 10 minutes and not find a game, or wait 10 minutes and find a game that's wildly imbalanced? At least to me, personally, finding a game after a longer queue and it being super unbalanced is way worse than not finding a game at that time. I think it's a really fair piece of feedback that is really difficult to address in a ranked setting. if you're waiting 10 minutes, we're only talking about ranked here. There's no other queue. I think like our joust queue every once in a while will get people waiting a really long time. Um, I think because of parties, there's that needs to maybe be investigated. But in general, those wait times are very low. But I have had a few players who have reached out to me being like, "I'm waiting so long." Anyways,
Oh, sorry, go for it.
no, all I was gonna say is it's a really difficult problem to handle because I agree. If you're gonna get a bad match, may as well get it over with as fast as possible. Like, why wait 10 minutes for the bad match when you can wait 4 minutes for the bad match or 3 minutes for the bad match? I've got that piece of feedback from some designers before even. Um, and it's tough because the truth is that we have to make these matches, and when you're waiting for 10 minutes, if we keep our settings the same for you as very tight and restricted, um, you you're maybe waiting for 20, you're maybe waiting longer, right? And so it's a difficult question. I think that in casual modes, that exact ideology is a really good reason to, at a certain point, just say, get people into a match. Because let's not make a casual player wait 10 minutes for a bad match. Let's make sure that that happens quicker if it's going to happen. For ranked, there's a lot of other considerations that have to happen, which result in this kind of like slower funnel widening. That means that you can wait a long time and then get a bad match too.
I'm going to answer a non-matchmaking question for a second.
Let's do it.
There's been the dead man 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 has been asking a lot about chat and why the chat in Smite 2 doesn't just work exactly like it did in Smite 1 with the same profanity filters and whatnot. We survey players when they stop playing Smite about why they stopped playing Smite, and the number one reason is always just like, oh, a new game came out. I'm playing something else for a while. I'll come back, right? And the number two reason, always, without fail, is toxicity. Mm-hmm. People do not like being yelled at. They don't like what you may think is witty banter. And I'm not trying to call you out in particular. I'm just saying, like, the things that were okay in Smite 1 really weren't always okay. And the new filter is not just a profanity filter. It also takes into account things that maybe are just toxic in nature, and it goes further in that way than the old one did. You can say, we're all adults, we should be able to swear at each other or whatever. And I think that's a fair argument. But what we have seen consistently is that most people playing the game don't want to be sweared at, right? Like they have been at work all day or at school all day. They come home, they get in a match, and they get, yelled at because they died at level 1 doing something dumb, right? And they ruin the game and they get yelled at for 30 minutes. And it's like, that's not a good experience for anybody. And similarly, I will say, so on our filter, we've actually turned the swearing filter down more and more over time because that's the thing we're least concerned about. And there are still some things that'll trigger it, don't get me wrong, but like most of the things that trigger it are more than just swearing, I would say at this point. The other thing that I will say is that like the why not all chat? Very similar reason, right? Like because most people, like, especially when you can do it cross team, even more often people are kind of ganging up on people, and it just becomes a more negative experience, which is one of the reasons why we never allowed it in match in Smite 1. It was only the post-match lobby to give people an opportunity to say GG, and some people abused that, to say bad things.
Cool. I've seen this one in chat a couple times for Max. Have you done any thinking on when the next potential ranked reset will be?
You know what? I was sitting here and I was taking screenshots of some questions to answer. And I realized that inbound was good question, Bobby. When's our next reset? If one is planned, I think that I'm alluding to other competitive formats. I think that when introducing that, I think is when we will probably address resets and when to do the next one. There will be an amount of, let's say, soft resetting soon. Hard resetting, maybe. We're looking at certain things related to how SR is calculated. Don't know. I'd say that it's mostly related to how the implementation of soon to be released details go. Someone else asked about SR decay, people who've not played who are still top ranks. Same answer basically, that we're working on these other additional systems, and depending on that, we'll probably start to look at things like decay and resets and all those things. I've taken some screenshots. I'm just gonna try to very quickly answer some
Let's
questions.
do it. Yeah.
People have been asking about threshold for casual conquest games played before getting to ranked. There's a few different ways people have asked this, but 10 or less casual games played total into games with them. Honestly, it's a fair yeah, it's just a fair piece of feedback. Right now, the only thing that we have available to us is levels, and it's set to level 10, which I think should be like 25-ish total games played, maybe a bit more, maybe a bit less. However, switching that to a count of casual conquest games played feels like something that makes a lot of sense, and is something that we could definitely explore in the future, 100%. How does matchmaking work when you're a party of 3 or more? Does it average the skill base or look towards the highest player in the group? In casuals, it across the board will average. In ranked, there are elements that look at average, and there are elements that look at max player in the group. So if you're in a party of 3 in ranked, it is a lot more determined based on your max player compared to in casuals. In casuals, it's average across the board. And then yeah, then there's just the rank reset question. So those. Oh no, and then what happened to role related MMR or MOBA specific MMR? Top of the show talked about Rally here and building out different features. I believe I don't want to hold anyone on that end to anything too specific, but what requires for that to be integrated is this ability to have like a profile of ratings for players, and I think that feature is getting built out like currently on the back end, which is really exciting. Yeah, we're looking forward to being able to do that. One of the big things that we notice is matches that, overall seem good and fair, and the range is good. We're still getting that classic thing that we've talked about for a while, I'd say, which is you're in solo lane and the best player on one team is against the worst player on the other team. And it's like, well, even if this match is balanced, it's kind of unbalanced because of things to do with the MOBA. So still work required to get it done, but work in progress, which is cool to be able to say.
Awesome. I think maybe we're slowing down on matchmaking questions.
Yeah.
So maybe we should take a couple other questions for a few minutes. Anything that's jumped out at you, Isiah?
Let's see. This is ranked related. Sorry to get us back.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
I just saw it. I saw it a couple times, and I know Max has talked about it a little bit internally, but people talking about God borders for ranked.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah. We have it on the schedule. It's 100% happening. That is the let's say primary ranked reward is we're going to do a God border based on the rank that you achieve. And we're hoping to get that in by the end of this first split. Obviously that was let's say it's time dependent now, so there's a chance that does get delayed, but in Smite 1 world it was by the end of the season, so end of the year. We're definitely hoping to have those in players' hands earlier than that, which I think is really cool.
Nice.
Show off ranked progress not after the season's over, show it off during the season. So that's definitely happening. I think we all think that borders for ranked is a super fun way to do it. It's classic, it's Smite. And yeah, so we have other rewards kind of in the works too. It's one that I just saw as well is, can you let players opt into wider like range matches for quicker queues and others for smaller range matches and longer queues? It's a really interesting question and idea, and one that I would love to try, right? Like if I could press a button right now and that would let people do that so we could see how it actually worked, I would. The truth is, to make that happen, a lot of both kind of front end UI work would have to happen, a lot of back end work would have to happen, and then from from discussions that we've had about this between me and other people kind of on the engineering side, is that a system like that would most likely kind of be a worst of both worlds scenario, where instead of us being able to have control over everything and create hopefully this like one peak of wait time and quality, letting some people go super wide and take away all these players, like they're filtering back out all these players and all the matches are kind of bad but they're getting them really quick, would make those players who want the better matches and wait longer, not just wait longer, they'd make them wait a lot longer, right? So it wouldn't be like oh yeah, you're going to be waiting the longer amount of time and all your matches are going to be good, and you're going to be waiting the shorter amount of time and all your matches are going to be okay. It would probably end up as a worst case scenario for both ends. So it's very unoptimized, but it does give players control, which isn't that bad. Yeah. So seeing how much it would affect the system would be very interesting, but it'd be a high time investment for a potentially negative return.
I saw a question, someone asking, when are console players going to get the same bug fixes and features that PC players have? And for the most part, console and PC clients should be at parity. I know we had an issue earlier this week with Xbox specifically was kind of behind a day or so because they had some issues with their CDN pushing out the update properly. But for the most part, whenever we push a PC patch, the console patch should follow shortly thereafter. Consoles do have to go through the certification process, which takes a few hours. So sometimes the hot fixes can be delayed, but a lot of the times we push server-side fixes, which are just on the back end that don't really delay anything. So for the most part, console and PC should be at parity. There are a couple of different instances or occasions to where it could just be delayed by a couple hours.
Yep. And there are. No, I was just gonna say there are still some. There are some Xbox crashes that we are aware of. I would say that in general, still Xbox crash rates are lower for Smite 2 than they are for Smite 1. So it's not an overwhelming issue, but it is an issue that we're looking into. And I believe a recent build had more logging to try and track down the exact cause of a couple of the harder to diagnose ones. So we are aware of that.
Few questions that I will just quickly address again. Can there be informational messages displayed during matchmaking, such as like it's expanding the range or like to explain what's going on? Great suggestion, genuinely. Like I think that would be awesome. I think that communication would really help the player experience. So can there be? Yeah. Will there be resources and time to get it done anytime soon? I think the honest answer would be probably not. But if we find a space for something like that, I think it'd be great. I think it'd be a great addition, and it's a great suggestion. Were there any challenges with the countdown system compared to the current new system? Man, and it's a long topic of conversation. Yeah. But with countdown, honestly, we didn't have that much control over how good a match was. As I kind of said, top of the show, if you count down from for 6 minutes and you grab a group of players in ranked, there's no guarantee that when you're chunking out, because the way it worked is it would take the top 10 players match, next 10 players match. There's no guarantee that any of those groups of 10 are actually a good match. And even more so, like at really low player hours, let's say there's 17 people online, you take 10, you're leaving 7 behind, and then some more people filter in, and you're taking 10, and you're leaving 5 behind. And then you have these people who will just literally never get a match. And there's a lot of really negative elements to that matchmaking system. There's also the positives of, those top 10 players are playing together.
Yeah.
So, pros and cons. I've seen one come through a few times, ranked joust when. I think that honest answer is that ranked joust as like ranked joust, separate queue, is in a way a tough sell when the player base is what it is, a medium Smite 2 sized player base, right? However, we keep talking about alternate competitive formats. I think stuff like that is a really cool way to give joust players a competitive outlet that isn't something that is going to permanently split the player base. So there are competitive outlets planned for Joust. If it's exactly ranked Joust, at least right now, we're going to try different things first, see if it kind of scratches the competitive itch.
Mm-hmm.
If anything, I'm hoping it scratches a higher competitive itch and is even cooler. But this lets us keep the player base together and also, do competitive Joust stuff. So competitive Joust, think it's cool.
Yep.
Splitting the queue, kind of hard.
Yeah, especially because like normal Joust is just such a more popular mode in Smite 1, right? Like there are people that play ranked Joust, but it's a very small percentage of the total matches.
In the meantime, sign up for Christy Dixon's Joust Cash Cup.
Yeah, play some competitive. There's a question about how you're going to get refer a friend rewards. We aren't that far yet. I was basically just saying the system is being built out. I can't confirm how you get them, but it's still in progress. And there's another question that I was going to answer too that was somewhat similar. But
the question: have there been any improvements to make individual performance matter more in ranked rounds? Man. I think I've maybe said this before, but I could set aside a whole 60 minutes to talk about performance and what we can and can't do with it. I think that individual performance, unless you do it perfectly, is really bad for the game. Because there are some people who have different play styles that lead to wins than others. And if we do anything to incentivize one play style over another, we have the chance of really damaging Smite. Just via incentivizing the wrong things. You're incentivizing gold earn, right? Let's say the game's like slightly lost. Now all your players are just farming permanently until the game ends so that their gold at the end of the game is high as possible. So it'd have to be done basically perfectly. That being said, it's something that let's say isn't out of the realm of possibility, right? Looking at whether there's a way to do it is something that I think we'll always consider, because it's something that players definitely want. And if we can do it in a way that makes us happy with the results, then we'll eventually try.
Cool. There's a recurring question about Item Builder. Item Builder is still on our roadmap. It is coming soon, TM. Probably still at least a couple patches out, but is something that's in progress.
Cool. All right. Well, we are nearing the end of the show. We're at 1:57, so let's go ahead and kick off one more question. Max, come on, man. We prepped this before.
You guys were so in sync. It like harmonized in my ear.
It's great.
To join that.
Right?
Yeah.
Wow. We'll coordinate next time.
Yeah, we'll coordinate for sure. We'll get you on board.
Oh, we missed the Alani check. Nobody asked for an Alani check this time. We'll do that doesn't count as one more question.
Not one more question.
I have Pink Slush today.
And I have Orange Kiss. Yes. Max made coffee. He is not on the Alani train, you know.
It's finished.
Yeah, it's gone.
Delicious. We must be practicing that on our own time. We've just done enough episodes of this now that we can.
Let's see here. Wait for chat to fill up here.
I will say I will answer this one just like with less of a direct answer, but with an answer. Worshippers leaderboard ever been a consideration? We are doing the work right now to be able to support more leaderboards in the back end. And Max actually might have more details on that, but we do have an intent to support more than just our current leaderboard and open it up. I don't know if Worshipper leaderboard is going to be the first thing that we add, but Max is sorry, you're nodding. Do you want to jump in?
I can jump in. Yeah. Right now, leaderboards are basically manually done, and the only thing that we use it for is ranked. And that's why I think that it's kind of fallen a little bit by the wayside as far as how much it's used in client, because we have tracker that shows a live leaderboard, and that's awesome. It's an awesome resource that we have for players. Building out our actual live leaderboards and the way that we've been designing it on the back end, so huge. And it really should let us do leaderboards for about anything. So we should have the technical capability to do a lot of different leaderboards. It will take time to build out actually the front end, how to display that. But very exciting. I'm glad it got mentioned during the talk. There's a lot of possibilities for what we can do when we can order players. It just leads to so many more things than just leaderboards. There's just so many cool things we can do with it.
I'm going to answer or take two quick questions and throw to you, Max, because you probably have the better answer than me. But just
Sure.
revolving around ranked bans, one is, have you been thinking about adding more bans? And then the second
Mm.
one is, have you seen the Marvel Rivals ban system? And is that something that we've been taking a look at?
Um, sure. More ranked bans. I think it's always going to be God pool dependent. We expanded to 2 per team. Um, in yeah, OB1. Um, I think there's a chance that we expand to 3, but there's a good chance that the next time we do a ban update is about the time that it would make sense to start looking back to the faster ban system of
Mhm.
like everyone gets 1 ban, because that would really only end up with banning like between 5 to 8 gods normally anyways, because generally teams would like both ban the one really OP god. So once we get to 6 total gods banned is about when we have to start considering whether to, instead of doing that, set aside some time to re-implement ban system. And actually, I've never played Marvel Rivals.
Oh, wow.
It's a
Okay.
bad industry research on my end.
No worries.
But I
Basically,
don't know their ban
Killgoon, I'm not
system.
sure if you've checked it out, but I'm pretty sure the way that
It's
the
just a
Marvel.
team vote. I
Yeah,
think.
it's a team vote.
Yeah. So it's like, because I think they ban one person and like the team votes and whoever gets the most votes is the person who's banned.
Okay.
But
Oh, it's just 1 ban
I
per
think
team?
it's just 1 ban per team right now. I might be wrong, but
I mean, a team vote makes sense. I can even think about ways to make that even more interesting. Not to say theirs isn't interesting, but if you do team vote, get multiple votes and get multiple bans,
Yeah, we got a
sounds
lot
cool
of
to me.
different options because the Smite 1 system
So many
currently is
options.
everyone chooses a god and then all the gods get banned.
Yeah.
Both teams could choose the same god if that happens.
one of my favorite, like, say what you will about DKO. One of my favorite bits about that was voting for which map you wanted at the end
Yeah.
of each round, and then it did like the roulette through everybody's
Yeah.
choices, and it's like, okay, if 3 people voted for this thing, it's got a 3 in 5 chance or whatever.
Right.
So it was fun.
That's very fun. I like that.
It was good.
Yeah, I have I'll do yeah, the only one that I've seen right now is oh, I lost it.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Oh yeah, no, it was about Toxic Q. It was about Toxic Q. Is the
Okay.
player base too low to have a Toxic Q? Yeah. I think the making a Toxic Q would basically be banishing them to damnation of infinite Q times, which is maybe not that bad if someone's toxic enough, but that is just called giving them a suspension.
Yeah.
So I think that I'm not the most. I'm involved with toxicity stuff. I'm not like the most involved with toxicity stuff, but I think that that's another area that we want to continue to build out tools and ways to get done. Having an actual toxic queue for each queue right now doesn't really make sense. But making sure that toxicity isn't something that's allowed to breed in the queues, very important.
Yeah. Cool. Well, Kilgoon, Max, thanks so much for joining us for the Friday show. Chat, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for all the great questions today.
Yeah.
I feel like we had a lot of good stuff to answer.
Don't forget to watch Bobby's tournament this
Yes.
weekend. At twitch.tv/inbound, I think is his channel. I'm sorry.
I think
got
some
that
games
wrong.
are going to be broadcast on Smite Game as well.
Yeah. So you can also watch here if you're on this channel. But yeah, should be a fun weekend of watching and playing Smite.
Yeah.
So I will be around while I'm not at a children's birthday party. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think we're right at 2 p.m. So maybe take a peek over at the Smite 2 Esports Twitter account for an announcement over in the next few minutes for another community esports outlet that's super exciting that players will probably be pretty familiar with. But until next show, which is on Monday, which is also the OB5 release and the release of Princess Bari, we will see you all on the battleground. Hope everyone has a great weekend. Take care of yourselves. Peace.